In the third episode of the Gilded Age, Hector, Duke of Buckingham, is teased with a lavish wedding, and it is finally decided whether or not the Duke will wed Gladys Russell. Viewers were curious about what would actually transpire between Hector and Gladys after his unexpected appearance at the conclusion of the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 2. Charles Fane solidified his position as the antagonist of the Gilded Age, while Peggy Scott's new romance also heated up in the third episode of Season 3. Ada Forte's adherence to temperance in the Van Rhijn home led to more conflict with Agnes van Rhijn, but it also provided the character with an exciting new storyline at the end of the episode. Gladys Russell's eventual marriage to Hector, Duke of Buckingham, is the most significant revelation. Gladys has finally come to terms with her fate after splitting from Billy Carlton. Viewers now know exactly to keep his property and titles, based on his agreement with Bertha in Season 2. At first, George Russell objected to the Duke's demand for more than the substantial amount he was prepared to give the Englishman. But in the end, Bertha's goals triumphed once more, as she effectively assured the Duke of further funds by stating that he may use the allowance that her father had promised Gladys. George violates his pledge to permit Gladys to marry for love when he gives in and accepts Hector's proposal. All of Gladys' desires and anxieties are disregarded in Bertha's pledges to the Duke. George breaks his pledge to permit Gladys to marry for love, though, when he gives in and accepts Hector for a supernatural turn. Mrs. Bower claims she can assist Ada in communicating with her deceased husband. Ada is asked by Mrs. Bower whether she would like to speak with her late husband, Reverend Luke Forte, once more. The idea is alluring right away because Ada has been aimlessly devoted to the temperance movement and trying to figure out how to live without Luke since his death in Season 2 of the Gilded Age. One of the more intriguing teaser elements of Season 3 of the Gilded Age is a séance, which is set up by this question. Short snippets of a medium visiting the Van Rhijn residence and a séance occurring have been featured in previous season previews, adding a supernatural element to the program and suggesting a possible method for Ada to cope with her loss. Peggy Scott's new suitor has already drawn disapproval from her father. The Kirklands appear to be highly critical. Throughout the Gilded Age, Peggy Scott's relationship with her parents has not always been the best, but in Season 3, the family appears to be closer. In Episode 2, when Peggy was ill, her parents even brought a doctor to the Van Rhijn residence to treat her, which paved the way for Peggy's new romantic interest. William Kirkland, Peggy's doctor and potential lover, seems like a decent guy, and her mother even supports the pairing. However, Dorothy and Arthur Scott were deeply worried about Peggy's future after meeting William's family in Newport. Despite Dr. Kirkland's seeming kindness, Elizabeth, his mother, has prejudice against Peggy's father due to the fact that he is a freed slave. Given that he is self-made and her family has been affluent for many generations, it is obvious that she believes she is superior to him. As a result, Peggy might encounter the same discrimination in future episodes. The actions of Elizabeth Kirkland might become intolerable. Although Peggy's father and mother privately worry about Peggy's future with William, Dorothy cautions Arthur against being very engaged in Peggy's romantic life because it has led to catastrophe in the past. In Episode 3, Elizabeth Kirkland's actions might become intolerable, despite the Scotts' resolve to remain silent. Although Marion Brooke and Larry Russell's covert romance is still going strong, the Gilded Age has also highlighted some of their challenges. Bertha's new lady's maid interrupts them while they are sharing a kiss at the Russell home and then informs Bertha of what she witnessed. Naturally, Bertha has always had strong opinions regarding the future of her kids. Marion is probably not regarded by Bertha as a serious Larry suitor. Bertha's opposition to Marion and Larry's relationship is hardly surprising, considering how active she has been in Gladys' romantic future. This is particularly true given that Bertha probably doesn't think Marion is a serious suitor for Larry and that Miss Brooke has previously had 2 unsuccessful engagements. Additionally, Larry has a past with Susan Blaine, with whom he briefly had an affair in Season 2 of the Gilded Age. Even if he is not as stigmatized by society as Marion is, things could still go wrong if Marion finds out how serious the affair was. Despite their cuteness, Marion and Larry still have to deal with their families and pasts. Jack Trotter's alarm clock still hasn't found any investors. He is beginning to doubt his invention. Since Season 2, Jack Trotter's alarm clock has been an element of the Gilded Age's plot, however, as of season 3, Jack's hopes of selling his creation have not been realized. Larry and I started working together at the end of season 2 of The Gilded Age, but we haven't been able to find any purchasers or investors. The young inventor is beginning to lose patience and faith in himself, even if the Van Rhijn family still has faith that Jack can find investors for his clock. Remarking that he should be content that he has at least gained access, Mrs. Armstrong surprisingly helps him feel a little better. HBO and HBO Max will broadcast The Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 4 on Sunday, July 13 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mrs. Armstrong gives Jack a helpful reminder to keep going, even if she is typically upset and incorrect about most things. Although his business talks have not yet produced any results, The Gilded Age has invested so much time in this plot that it would be shocking if Jack Trotter's plan didn't succeed later in the season.